Everyone wants their changeovers to be seamless and pain-free. I'm going to show you how to use snippets and scenes on an M32 or X32 to change all the mixer settings when something is changing on stage. And we're going to do all of it with no dropouts. Everything is going to be perfect. Scenes and snippets are just ways of changing individual mixer settings or the whole mixer, whereas safes, on the other hand, are a way of preventing the mixer from changing specific settings when you use these recall functions. It's easy to overlook these things, but I spent some time digging into them so that I can give you the info you need to make your show run smoother. I'm Andrew, welcome to Offshore Audio. Let's dive in. First of all, let's deal with the how before we talk about the why. To save a scene on an M32, what you do is you press the show control button over here on the right hand side. There's a view button to show control, or if you're on a compact format, M32 or X32, then beside the screen, you will see a scenes button. Press that, and it's going to open up the cues page. We're going to ignore that for the moment. So we page over to the right using the D-pad, and then you'll see all of our scenes. You simply use the rotary encoders below the screen to select an empty scene, and then you click the rotary encoder, which corresponds to save, name your scene, then you use either the D-pad or the rotary encoders to confirm that you want to save over this scene. Probably goes without saying, don't save over other people's scenes on the mixer. You don't want to be the bad guy. So what do they do? Scenes recall every single parameter on the mixer. So what it does is it just saves exactly how the mixer looks right now, and then when you load that, it returns the mixer to those exact settings. That is everything. That includes mutes, gain, fader positions, routing, absolutely everything. Now this is great, but when you recall every single setting on the mixer, it takes a little split second to actually load everything in. Probably don't use scenes if you're changing parameters in the middle of a show or an event. What do you want to use scenes for then? Scenes are good for big level changes. That is different shows, different bands, different artists or events. If you work with a band regularly or multiple bands regularly, you might have a different scene for each and every band. That way you know if you're going out with a certain band or you have a certain band coming into your venue, you load up their scene and it has all of the settings stored from last time. If you have a multiple band bill, you might save different scenes for each band because they might have completely different configurations, different gains, different mics, different instrument inputs, different channel names. If you have a regular spoken word event like church service or something like that, you might have different speakers, different people who stand on the stage each week, and then you might want to save a scene depending on which speaker you're going to have on the stage that evening with their EQ settings and all of their preferences saved into the mixer. And I recommend that you set up a default scene for your mixer and then you save that to a USB stick and just have that somewhere just in case something gets overwritten on your mixer. Tape it to the underside of the mixer or something. But what if you want to do sort of finer level adjustments? What if you're on tour with a band and you're really dialing in the settings for every single song? Or what if you have a band which regularly plays the same group of songs in some sort of order? Well, that's where you can use snippets. So how do we save a snippet? Page over past the scenes page to the snippets page, and then you'll see there are parameters which you can enable. This is you telling the mixer, I want to save this parameter. That could be EQ, that could be the fader level, that could be a mute or panning. Just about anything on the mixer you can configure. But you need to tell the snippet what parameter you want to save and also which channels you want to save that parameter to. As in, I only want to change EQ on the main vocal mic. I don't want to change the EQ on the backing vocal microphones. Once you have chosen the parameters that you would like to save, simply make your change. That could be something like changing the EQ curve on the vocal microphone, and then go back to your parameter page, click the rotary encoder to save it. Name it something like song 1, song 2, and then you can save that parameter and then recall it. And when you press recall or load, it's just going to reset just the parameter that you picked, that is the EQ in this case, back to the state it was in when you saved that parameter. Why would we want to do this? Again, if you have a regular artist that you work with or regular anyone on a stage, basically, they might go through the same motions, same songs, same performances every single time they're on the stage. Even if the order changes, you might have different EQ or pan settings depending on where musicians are on the stage for each song. And you can save that into your snippets, and then you get a set list before the gig and you know which snippets you need to load. you know, song 1, song 2, song 4, song 3. Then before each song starts, you can simply recall those snippets and it will change those specific mixer settings that you enabled to the settings that you have saved for those songs. So scenes are your big picture stuff. That's what band am I working with? Who's performing on the stage today? Who's speaking on the stage today? Snippets are your sort of fine detail. That is, what is changing moment to moment on the stage? What small changes can I automate? Am I constantly bringing the gain down when they play this song? Scenes and snippets go hand in hand with safes. Say you work in multiple venues and you have a show on a USB stick and you want to take that into the venue and load your scene up on the mixer. But your routing patch on your mixer is totally different from the routing in the venue. You want to load your settings into the mixer, but you don't want to change the routing page. We can use scene safes to prevent recall of certain parameters. That means that these parameters, for example, the routing, don't get recalled when we load a scene. So if we look here on the scenes page, we have band 1 and band 2, right? And if I load both of these up, you'll see that both of them have the routing set to the AES-A input, right? All the channels coming from AES. But what happens if we are working on band 1 and then we change the routing to have some of the inputs come from the local inputs? We don't want to load band 2 and then have all of those parameters switch back to AES. We enable the scene safe of the routing on this scene, and then when we load band 2, you'll notice that the routing page is the same as we left it in band 1. We have not recalled the parameters for routing, which were stored in band 2. So if you have any scene that you want to load into your mixer, but you want to choose to just not load certain parameters, leave them as they are, you can use scene safes for this. Think of it sort of like not arming a track for recording if you're using a DAW. If you don't arm the track for recording and you press record, nothing on that track will be overwritten. This is you clicking to disarm these parameters for loading. We can go deeper. If we go to the parameter safe page, we can toggle specific parameters to make recall safe. So say we want to load everything, but we just don't want to load the EQ settings on channel 1. We can do that in the parameters page and it works exactly the same. The last thing that you want to look at here is channel safes. Now these are really, really powerful. This means that nothing on these particular channels will change no matter what you load. Let me give you an example of why you might use that. You have house music, background music, which you play in between bands. And when the band comes off the stage, you turn the house music on. You need to load the scene for the next band, but you saved that scene with the house music all the way down. So when you load it, that house music is just going to drop right out. Why don't you enable the channel safes on the playback channels? That way, when you load this scene in the mixer, these channels won't be affected at all. They'll stay up and music will keep coming out of the speakers. The last thing that we want to have a look at here are the cues, right? Which weirdly, it opens up on this page on the M32 when you press the scenes button. This is where you build your show. Each band might have multiple snippets, that is multiple songs that make up a set list, and they might change that set list from show to show. You can use the cues section to build up a show. You can create Q1 and you can tell Q1 to load band 1, song 1, right? You can create Q2 and tell it to load song 2. What this means is that if you have a collection of snippets for each song that your band plays, but they change up the set list every show, you can use the cues page. First I want to call song 3, then I want to call song 5, and this doesn't need to be a band. It could be anything that you can think of that you want to save to scenes or snippets. Cues recall scenes and snippets in any order you want. Do you use snippets in your show? How often do you have recall safes on? Leave me a comment down below and let me know. And if this was interesting, consider liking and subscribing to the video. Check out this one here for in-depth routing on M32.